Hey people, this is DJ.
And this is Ish.
And
this is
season
season 4 of
Pero
Let Me Tell You.
No, but that argument we were having earlier today about gray hair, I still stand by what I say.
Listen, that is absolutely fine. And I stand by my whole thing of like, if you, being old has nothing to do with your hair color. It's a state of mind. And there are people who have jet black hair at 22 and act like they're 73.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. My whole shtick is, first of all, you got to do you and do
what makes you feel.
what makes you happy. Well, by the way, everybody, welcome to episode 152. 152. Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Pero
welcome
Friday.
to Pero Let Me Tell You.
Yes.
How
yes.
is everybody? Happy Friday.
They're doing well. They're getting ready, for the weekend, but more importantly, they're getting ready for April 21st so they can join us for trivia night at Beat Culture Brewery.
Yes. Great plug.
Yeah, see?
Yes. Listeners, especially our local, well, everybody's welcome.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to track down from Cambodia, to our listeners in Cambodia, if you want to take an international flight, that may be hard to get because of COVID.
Even if you win the gift card, it is the most expensive prize you'll ever win.
Yeah, I mean, but we are going to be having trivia night at Beat Culture on Wednesday,
April 21st, starting at 7.
We're super excited about it because, in 152...
More than that, because we've done bonus episodes.
Ish and I may have said a couple of times that we lived in other places. New York, Michigan. We've been around.
Yeah,
Milan,
we've been around. Old Navy.
And trivia is something that in Michigan, trivia was like big time.
A friend of mine in New York hosts trivia.
In Boston, trivia is like religion. People go.
Your team is like your team.
People have the Sabbath and they have Sunday to go to church, and then Wednesdays it's like
it's trivia night.
It's trivia night.
It's trivia night. Come hell or high water.
And for some reason,
it's not a thing here.
It's not a thing here in Miami, which I don't even know why, because it's so fun. Well, I think it's fun.
Because it is, duh.
I mean, and usually trivia is done in like a bar or a pub.
Yeah, it's not like it's at a library.
Right. It's usually like a very social area.
An event.
An event.
It involves drinking.
So we are trying to make trivia great again.
We are... I was going to say we're trying to make trivia happen, like Fetch.
Fetch.
Yes.
Yeah, but Fetch didn't happen.
But didn't it, though? Because we're still saying it how many years later after Mean Girls?
Right. You are right. You're right.
Kind of did happen.
Yeah. So everybody, if you're around on Wednesday and you're nearby, please join us. Come and say hi. Have a great
Have
time. Fun. Beat Culture is a great brewery.
Yes. 2 for 1 beer, by the way, for those who are playing trivia.
And it's tacos and trivia.
I think it's $2 tacos.
Yes.
And us.
And
what more do you want?
I think we're gonna have some merch there.
We are gonna have merch. You can also, if your team wins, you win a gift card for Beat Culture Brewery, yes. And we're gonna toss in some shirts.
Right.
So,
and by the way, it's gonna be general trivia, so it's gonna have a little bit of everything, a little bit for everybody. So don't think that just because you are not into maybe sports or maybe into like sci-fi or whatever, that you're not. There's not.
It's actually going to be interesting because we the way we set it up is the first round of questions, if I remember correctly, is going to be things that are like your interest, kind of, sort of. Then it's my interest. Then it's about famous Cubans, and so then there's un popurrí there.
Yes. It's funny when you say my interest. It's really I think it's hilarious when people tell me, I don't know what to get you. You're the hardest person to shop for. I'm like, anybody that knows me knows.
There's 5 things.
List the 5 things that I am.
That you are, or that you like.
The 5 big things.
Okay. There is stadiums.
Ballparks.
Okay. Ocean liners.
Yep.
James Bond.
Yep.
Mariah Carey.
Yep.
Full House.
Yep. And the Yankees.
Pero bueno, I mean, but you said top name 5.
Yeah, well,
and I did.
No, you did. You did. So it'll be 6 and the Yankees. Right. It's like there's so much stuff you can get within that,
especially now with that
categories. Right. There's just so much, and like my interests are very defined.
Yeah, it's not like le gusta la música.
Yeah.
That you don't know what that means.
No, I mean I like a wide range of people, but
right. No. But like there's people who it's like, oh, I like music.
you get me a Mariah Carey box vinyl set, and it's gonna make me pretty darn.
You're
happy.
gonna be happy, yeah.
But anyway, the conversation Ish and I were having earlier today about gray hair. Obviously you do you, and you do what makes you happy, and you do what whatever you think looks best or doesn't look best on you.
Whatever makes you happy.
Whatever makes you happy. I hate gray hair. I have some gray, and I
have to say, I like the gray on you. You've got some gray in your beard. You've got it at the temples. It's very, very, very charming.
Hate it.
Well, you know what? You look very zaddy.
Thank you. But I hate it. I don't like it. I don't think I could pull it off.
You can pull it off when you have your glasses on.
It's just not me.
Very
and like
professor.
I rather just patch it up with Just for Men.
My God, it sounds like you're using spackle.
Okay, I rather apply Just for Men because it's when you say that, because I want to look young forever. It's not that I want to look young forever. I'm already in my 40s. I know I can't pull off looking 21, and that's okay. I don't want to look 21.
Right.
I just want to look youthful for my age. That doesn't mean I want to look 20. That I just want to look youthful.
Fair enough, but I mean, I've got gray and I'm balding, but the other day I was wearing overalls and a Tom and Jerry t-shirt. I think that was youthful.
Right. You do you. You do what makes you happy. But to me, gray hair, and I know a lot of people, a lot of people are attracted by gray hair.
Yes, I do love a distinguished looking gentleman.
They find it very sexy. I mean, look at freaking George Clooney created a whole gray.
That's true.
Gray man revolution.
That's true.
Like a lot of people find that attractive, distinguished, whatever. I think it really ages people. Like I was giving the example of
Allison Janney.
Because
it turns out she's actually been wearing a wig for the last I don't know how many years.
Right,
on,
but she hadn't.
Mom.
Right, but she hadn't gone public with the gray.
Right, no. We found out about it like this week because I think it was like the last episode of Mom.
Right,
she showed up with her natural hair.
I've seen her do like the rounds of the talk shows.
Right,
and I know it's the last season of Mom, so they probably already filmed it.
Yeah, something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So now she, I thought, she cut her hair and just let it go, the natural gray go. And it's not even that she looks bad, but if you look at pictures of her like a year ago, she aged. And then you said, she looks like Helen Mirren.
No. I didn't say she looked like Helen Mirren. I said that even gray hair, her and Helen Mirren, who's also gray haired, are two of the hottest broads around.
Listen, I think Helen Mirren is like 76, 77.
She is one of the sexiest women out there.
She is very attractive for her
That
age.
woman's got a rack on her. I mean,
right, but Allison Janney is like, I think 60.
She's in her 60s, yeah.
So she looks the same age as Helen Mirren, like now with this new hair. I don't know. I always think people look better with non-gray hair, but what do I know? Like, what do I know? I'm not a colorist or
you're not a stylist, a colorist.
I'm not a colorist, but I know my color in Just for Men.
And if you don't know your coloring, what else?
I figured out how to.
Nothing.
I know.
It's like a blend.
No, Just for Men, to get it to look natural, guys.
Listen up. This is the learn part.
So this is the learn part. The problem with Just for Men is that Just for Men, el tinte, like the color is very strong.
That's why it always looks fake.
Right. So if you get like a brown, you're getting like ultra brown.
Yeah, like baka brown.
Chocolate brown.
Yeah.
Right? So what I do, because it's weird because I don't have red hair, but my beard is kind of a little ginger.
You do have a little reddish tint,
ginger and like brown. So what I do is I buy the lightest shade of blonde.
Okay.
And I leave it for 20 minutes. You're only supposed to leave it for 5.
Oh, so you let it sit longer, so
it gets a darker color, but it's the lightest shade of blonde. So when I when I wash it off, it looks natural. Because the problem with Just for Men is that if you buy the color you think you're buying, it's too saturated.
It's gonna be more. Yeah.
It's just way too saturated.
Yeah.
So then you walk out looking, I don't know, like an evil villain. Like
you look like you use shoe polish.
Yeah. So guys, that's a secret. Go 2 or 3 shades lighter. And just leave it for longer.
Mira, there you go. Well, that's the learn session. Thank you for coming to this TED Talk.
If you like gray hair on your head or on your beard, go for it.
I do. I got a nice little distinguished thing going. At least that's what I tell myself.
Anyway, so let's switch topics a little bit because, we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And
I feel like the ugly was referencing me and my gray hair, but go on.
Okay, well, I don't necessarily am not a fan of your gray hair. I also don't think it's ugly. Like, calm down there. So, there's a couple of incidents I just wanted to mention this week. I mean, it'd be it'd be very awkward to have a podcast where we talk about
current
events and not talk about
current events.
The two events having to do specifically with the uniformed army officer that got pepper sprayed, and then the other issue was the murder, because let's call it for what it is.
That was Dwayne Wright was the murder.
The murder of Dwayne Wright. So for those of you who have, for our listeners who've maybe been under a rock this week,
there's a lot going on. There's a lot.
Watch the news. Yeah, there is a lot going on, and even you've named it yourself. I'm a news junkie.
You're a news junkie, yeah.
In the last few months, I've stepped away a little bit.
And I think a lot of people have.
Just a little bit.
They need a little bit of a break.
I watch the news enough to be informed of what's going on, because I don't want to be uninformed.
Right.
But I'm trying not to dive as deep as I was, like during the election. And
I think most people
at the beginning of the year, because,
it's not healthy.
You need a break.
Yes. McDonald's was right.
So just let's recap a few of the incidents. And there is a video that went viral.
Both? No? Both have videos, correct.
The first video was of a second lieutenant called Caron Nazario. He's black and Hispanic.
Oh, Afro-Latino. Okay.
Yeah. Nazario,
yeah.
Like Anita. No, that's Anita Nazario. No, Anita Nazario.
It is Anita Nazario. Yeah.
From Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's Puerto Rican, but so this gentleman was in a gas station, and he was in uniform.
He was uniformed.
He was in uniform. Yeah. And I'm not sure why the cop approached him.
Okay.
But the officer approached him, and he was in his car, and this is all documented. And in this case, the guy had his hands in the air, pleading with the cop, "What did I do? What did I do, officer?" Like, he was on the brink of crying. Like,
right. He wanted to know.
And the officer proceeded to pepper spray him in the face like 3 or 4 times,
and without saying what he did, quote unquote.
Right. And the guy was even making like Western movie like alliterations, like, "Oh, I forget what it
put
was.
him up, partner." Type of things?
Like that type of stuff. That was like, what?
What is going? Yeah,
like what? It's really bizarre. Really
bizarre.
And again, this is a man in uniform. You know what he does? What his role is? He's actually a medic, a doctor.
Oh wow!
Right. I mean, these are people that like see soldiers that have just had their limbs blown off
voluntarily,
and have
because
to
you go to the military voluntarily to serve your country,
right? And that's what this man sees, and to be treated that way. And again, there is a video. His hands are up in the air.
He's asking for elaboration, right.
And this man pepper sprayed him 3 or 4 times. Then obviously,
isn't it sad when the pepper spray is the good story?
Well,
I'm saying,
yeah. I mean, at least it didn't kill him.
I'm saying,
and then the issue with Duante Wright. So Duante Wright was the kid, 20 years old, who got stopped by a cop because he had an air freshener.
Okay, I plead ignorance. He was pulled over because he had one of those tree things hanging from his. And
because again, in some jurisdictions that's illegal.
To have an air freshener hanging from your rearview mirror.
It is.
Really?
It is. They can't stop you for that. Now, let's say things for what they. Let's call.
How would you even know that?
Huh?
Like I guess.
Let's call things for what they are. Those are the type of laws that are created
to be able to pull people over without impunity.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's the type of law that you profile someone.
And then you can say they had an air freshener.
You racially profile someone, and then you go, "Oh, but I'm not stopping you because you're black. I'm stopping you because you had
your car is 2 pine scented.
Yes, the pine hanging from your thing. Because I'm sure that if a white blonde kid would have passed by, he wouldn't have stopped him, right?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
that's a white girl in a BMW, they probably wouldn't have been stopped.
Yeah,
right.
That's a safe bet.
Let's call things for what they are. Those type of laws exist.
I'm trying to figure out what that law. I mean, let's take what we're discussing right now out of the equation for a moment. What was that law even passed? Like, what is the basis of that law? I guess.
Oh, I mean, it was passed because hanging that can cause
obstruct your view.
Obstruct your view.
But how?
but this is not supposed to make sense. You're not going to find a logic in it because these aren't sensible. These aren't reasonable laws.
Is this one of those laws that has existed for time immemorial type of a deal?
These are these laws.
Like those things where it's like you can't buy a donkey on a Saturday on the third month. You know what I mean? You know those weird ass laws that still exist.
Oral sex is illegal.
Right? Is illegal everywhere. Yeah.
It actually is. And I mean, I don't know the history of the law, why it was passed.
Okay, no.
But all these laws, all these ridiculous laws, like your tints are too dark, the lights in your car are too bright, you're hanging something from your rearview mirror. All that is passed to be able to justify stopping people.
Fair enough.
Yeah. That's why it's passed. Because you are not causing any public harm by having that thing hanging from your rearview mirror. But anyway, back to the issue at hand. In the case of the guy being pepper sprayed, when I saw that video, obviously I became angry and upset and all that. I always think these people that you cannot talk to about police reform because no cops and back the blue and cops we can't let the bad guys get away.
Blue line.
I always am curious as to
what's the line?
How are you going to spin that one?
What's the line? Right.
Because the guy could have not been any more peaceful and any more overt that his hands were out in the air. So why did you have to pepper spray him? The guy was not in distress. He was not being violent.
Right.
There was no another thing.
And if I can add something to it, many of these people who make those arguments that you were just saying, they're also very staunch defenders of the military.
Yes.
So in this case specifically,
you have a veteran. You have a veteran.
I also am curious as to how they.
So how are you going to spin? I mean, I'm sure they will. I'm sure they'll find a way of spinning it.
Right.
How are you going to spin that one? Like how? How are you going to spin that one? How are you going to spin, the poor kid being shot? Now, let's talk about that one because that one is the one that now everybody has really.
Well, that was a mistaken identity.
The Duante right, yes.
Mistake of weapon.
Right. She wanted to tase him. First of all, why did she need to tase him?
Right. What was the? I would like to. I really would like to hear.
This was. Oh, because
like
he was
understand.
resisting arrest, right? Because he was like, "Why are you stopping me? Like, what is?" He was questioning her, like, "Why are you stopping me?" Like,
so having an air freshener is an arrestable defense.
The bigger question is, okay, so define resisting arrest now, because apparently now you yelling,
having a question,
being angry at a cop and talking back to a cop, saying, "Why are you arresting me? What is this? Leave me alone." Apparently, that's resisting arrest. Right.
Never mind that you were not asked to get out of the car.
When I think resisting arrest, I think somebody who is like running away from the cops,
or trying to not get handcuffed, or not put in the car,
get handcuffed, and he's like beating the shit out of the cop. That's resisting arrest. But
questioning is not resisting.
You have an objection, and you raising your voice. That is resisting arrest. And furthermore. Even if you are resisting arrest, does that qualify for you to kill and shoot and kill someone?
Right. Well, in her quote unquote defense, she was reaching for her taser.
She was reaching for her taser, right? Which a taser, they made.
We've all seen the memes.
A taser weighs half a pound, and a Glock weighs, which she had, weighs between 2.5 and 3 pounds.
Yeah.
So it's a very big difference.
Right.
And a Glock has like two safeties that I read on this because I saw something. I saw Meghan McCain talking about like when you're shooting a
Star Wars hairstyles.
when you're shooting with a Glock. You're shooting with a Glock. Like there's There's no mistake that it's a Glock.
Especially a 13-year force veteran.
Right. Who is a trainer?
Oh, she's a trainer.
No, 13 years. No, 26 years.
26. Sorry.
26. And she's a trainer. She's a trainer.
So this is somebody
who's an expert.
On paper, at least, is an expert.
Everything about that case, everything.
It's just wrong.
Is wrong. From the fact that you stopped the kid for an air freshener to the fact that... Okay, so you stopped her for the air freshener.
Give him a ticket and send him on his way.
This was a nonviolent infraction.
Right.
Okay. You are a cop. Why didn't you de-escalate that? Let's say that the kid was mouthing her off. Mm-hmm. Why didn't you de-escalate that? You are the cop. Right? This was a non-violent infraction at worst.
I'm thinking at most it's a ticket. Right?
Exactly.
I mean, like, just be like, you know what? I'm just going to issue you this ticket.
Exactly.
And do whatever you want with it.
Right.
That's it.
Because remember, which is what a lot of people don't know, when you study law, one of the most important classes you take is called criminal procedure. Criminal procedure is basically...
That's where you learn about Miranda and all that.
Yes. It's predominantly Fourth Amendment searches and seizures.
Is that where you learn things like the bin?
Case law.
Like, what is it? Bins versus...
Well, in criminal procedure, like you learn the Terry stop, Terry versus Ohio. Okay. You learn what standing is, Rickus versus Illinois. You learn all these things that have a very big influence on policing.
Correct.
And you also learn the Fifth Amendment, right to self-incrimination, Miranda, all that. So, in this whole thing, in terms of being an officer, part of your duties is to try to prevent the very thing that happened here.
Yeah, it's to serve and protect, which theoretically should mean that when you show up to if you show up to a situation that's already out of hand, that's a different story.
And I have to tell you,
but your purpose there is to bring order, not.
And I have to tell you, I can't begin to imagine or relate to what it means to be a black male in the U.S. And in the
world.
I thankfully have not had an issue. But remember that issue I had a couple of years ago with the cops when I was going to our friend's house?
Yeah.
So, for those who don't know.
Here.
Huh?
I think you told the story on the podcast.
But it's been a while.
No.
This was like 2 years ago because my hair was still long.
Okay.
And I was wearing gym clothes and I was in my car. I had a Dodge Charger Scat Pack. That's like a very high profile kind of car.
Like a racer car.
Right. And I was going to a friend's house and we were in Flagler. It was the area of Flagler that was under construction for like 50 years. And I went...
Te metiste en la vía que no era.
It was an area that dark. I'm not that familiar with. No, it wasn't dark. It was during the day, but it was an area that I wasn't familiar with. There was construction, so the construction there was one of those things that like
all of a sudden a lane becomes another lane and
reconstructed. Yeah. So I ended up going, and this wasn't on the main road. This was on the
the side streets.
The side streets. I ended up going the wrong way in a one-way street. There was no incoming traffic, but I was in the wrong way and I was going very slow.
Because you were looking for an address.
I was looking for an address. I know what they thought. They thought I was dealing.
Right.
Right.
You're tremendo.
Right.
So
they see this guy, like in a Charger, this big guy with like all this, the hair, whatever. I was so distracted looking for the address.
You didn't even notice the cop.
I didn't notice there was a cop behind me. And then it was one of those things that he's like, pull over. And I look, and I was like, "Oh, he's not talking to me, right?"
Right, because I'm looking for an address.
I'm looking for an address. Like, pull over, right? And when I look, there were 4 cop cars behind me, and he came up to me, and then he was all like, "Oh, because I was chasing you. You weren't chasing me because I was going literally 5 miles an hour. Like, I was chasing you.
OJ went faster.
Didn't you see that? I was chasing you. No, officer, I didn't see that you were chasing me. Right? And that's when I told you that I looked in my rearview mirror, and it was him and 3 other cops around me, and they all had their hand
on the gun. Right.
And and this is me, that I,
right.
I'm not, I don't know what they were profiling me there as. They were probably profiling me as a drug dealer. This is me, Darian, who went to law school, who understands these things.
Who watches Full House.
And I looked in the rearview mirror and I looked at that and I'm like.
This is how this happens.
I'm like, I was very aware that at that moment, I had to be very careful with what I said and how I moved my arms.
Right.
Because any slight movement can end very badly.
Yeah.
Right. You should not be afraid of the cops. You should not be afraid that you got pulled over by the cops. And again,
unless you're guilty.
Right.
I'm saying unless you've legitimately done something wrong.
Not be something. Well, unless you're in hot pursuit of a crime, you know, being pulled over, even if it's for an infraction, should not be something that you're scared about. And again, you know, I want to say again, I by no means am comparing my experience to that somebody, you know, who's black goes with.
Right.
But what I felt in that moment is what unfortunately so many black men experience time and time and time and time and time and time again. Because there you go, a situation. Why did they need 4 cop cars behind me? Oh no, because what's the answer to that? Oh no, because they don't know if you're armed. What reasonable suspicion do they have? This is where law and criminal procedure comes in.
Right.
What reasonable suspicion do they have to think that I'm armed? Right? What reasonable suspicion do they have?
What actions have I demonstrated?
Right. That I'm going slow. So anybody that's going slow, right? So in the case of the So why does she even pull out the gun? Like this
or even a taser. Let's say she was going to go for the taser. What was the reason? It's not like he
was attacking her because he was in his car
the whole time.
The whole time. It's not like he was attacking her, that she was in fear for her life or her safety. Why did it get to that point? So that's why I always say with cops, I don't hate cops. I don't think, you know,
I think they are necessary.
We need law enforcement. But to say that there is not a problem, a systematic problem with law enforcement in this country, is you're either being willfully blind,
extremely
naive, or just in denial, or you're a racist fuck. I mean, let's be honest.
I think we found our next T-shirt.
Well, you're
willfully ignorant, extremely naive, or just a racist fuck.
What part of that is not true, right?
And we do like a little check one.
Yeah, because I mean, this keeps happening over and over and over and over again, and the reasons for the initial stop. Encounter with the cops keeps getting more and more ridiculous.
It's very benign.
Yeah, it's like he was stopped because he had an air freshener.
Right.
That is the reason he got pulled over. Like, what the fuck? Because you had an air freshener? I mean,
yeah.
And again, it's not. Again, we need law enforcement. We can't live in the
Wild West,
in a society where there
anarchy
isn't law enforcement. Whatever you want to call it, defund the police, reform the police, whatever you want to call it.
Something.
Defund the police doesn't mean abolishing the police.
Defund the police is the worst name ever given to anything.
Defund the police means that resources will be allocated differently.
Right. But from a PR perspective, that's a horrible name.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about the name.
Because defund the police sounds like you want to abolish it.
Right. I'm not crazy about the name, but defund the police, I mean, I don't have to go into it. I think people by this time know what defund the police is.
At least our listeners do.
Nobody's saying that there shouldn't be law enforcement. You know, we know some, we personally know many people in law enforcement that are wonderful people that do it for their, they believe in civic duty. Mm-hmm. And, it is a job that you leave in the morning and you don't know if you're going to come back. So
I get it.
Nothing against that. But to say there isn't a systematic problem within the entity of policing in this country, again,
something needs to be addressed.
Something, because this is happening over and over and over and over and over again.
And I will say, I don't think it's anything new. I just think that because we now have social media, we're seeing
of course.
We're seeing
of
it
course.
We're seeing it more. So this is not a new quote unquote thing.
Right.
This is just a more visible.
Did you see the other video that went viral yesterday of the kid who was pushed around?
No.
By the guy in Columbia, North Carolina? Yeah, in Columbia, North Carolina. There was this young kid, this young black kid, teenager, maybe 15, 16 years old. Mm-hmm. He had his
it's a high school age
AirPods on. I think he had a book bag, dressed very
Gap,
some jeans, very run of the mill, right? Nothing any different about what anything that he's wearing. And he was walking on the sidewalk, And this guy, this white guy who is an army drill lieutenant, comes out and it's like, why are you walking here? Why are you here? And this is on video. It went viral yesterday or the day before yesterday. Why are you here? And the guy was like, because I'm walking on the sidewalk. And I don't know if the kid did it on purpose or because that's just his temperament, but he was like cool as a cucumber. He was like, and then, the guy's
like, how else do I answer this?
The big white guy who's like, like
buzz cut,
roid rage and like, no hair and like sweating and the veins coming out in his, why are you here? Well, because I'm walking on the sidewalk. And he's like, why are you in my neighborhood? Because I live by here. I've never seen you. Well, I've lived. How long have you lived here? Because I live here. And
I don't know.
And the guy was like, you better leave. And he's like, well, I'm trying to, but you keep getting in my way. Like, he was cool as a cucumber. And it ended up with him pushing him.
The
white guy
the drill
pushed
sergeant.
the kid. Yeah. And this guy's huge. And this guy was shorter.
Right.
A young kid. And he pushed him. But you know what? Le salió caro, because the next day, there was a huge protest in front of his house from all these organizations.
Couldn't he be charged with assault?
He was. He was arrested.
Oh, okay.
He was arrested the next day.
Oh, okay.
He was arrested.
Okay.
And the video went viral.
Happy ending of sorts.
Yeah. So it's like,
Ay, como tú dices, it's so exhausting to be a racist.
It is exhausting to be a racist. It really, really is, because it's like you have a problem with everything. Like you have a problem pretty much with humanity.
Oh, God.
It must be exhausting.
Like by the time they go home, they must have so much chamomile tea.
Yes. Un
tilo. Oh my God, for sure.
I mean, just think about it. Like, it must be so exhausting.
Oh.
But those are, you use those examples, and it's always what you say when people are like, here in Miami, they're like, racism doesn't exist.
I get pulled over by the cops all the time, and when Officer Sanchez sees my license, and he's not right, Fernandez. Yeah, Sanchez isn't gonna be profiling you. Like,
yeah. Racism is alive and well in the U.S., unfortunately. And again, I just think I don't even know what it is of people that like refuse to believe it. I mean, no, they refuse to believe it because they're racist fucks. That's why. Like,
well, but okay, that's the last option on our shirt, so that works.
Yeah. Because remember, people. Racism comes in many shades.
Many
variants. No, racism comes.
no pun intended.
No,
many shades
in a spectrum.
Oh,
right?
Okay. Yes.
Right, and people think that being a racist is like
KKK. That's
right.
It.
KKK, or like an outward, like
neo-Nazi,
whether it's black, Latino, gay, whatever. There are less people than we are, and they should have no rights, and they should be taken away, or they should be hurt.
It's always el extremo.
People think it's like that extreme. Oh, that is what racism is. No.
Racism
is seeing a black kid mind his own business, walking in the sidewalk of your neighborhood,
and go out of your way.
Go out of your way, get in his face, asking him why is he there. That is racism. Because if that would have been, Britney, blonde Britney. Well, it would have been Britney Spears,
I would have been on that sidewalk, okay? Yeah.
But, there was, run-of-the-mill white blonde girl.
Tiffany.
Tiffany walking down the street. Everybody would be like, hi, Tiffany. Hi.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, it's things like...
This has been a charged episode.
It is, but I'm going to try to diffuse before we get to our guest, and I'm going to use this next topic as a mini topic as a nice transition. Okay. So, one of the things that people always talk about in these situations, it's and to counter that whole like, oh, that doesn't happen, is because of a lack of representation, right? I mean, I think it's like you were saying, actually we were talking earlier, where it's like, if you know someone who is X, be it black, Hispanic, gay, whatever, trans, you're a little bit more likely to maybe change your views or be more sympathetic or what have you. So on a more frivolous note of that, though, I read the other day that they are rebooting or remaking, I don't know what term to use anymore, Father of the Bride.
Okay.
Starring Andy Garcia.
Oh, okay.
And it's going to be...
El padre de la novia.
Basically, and it's going to be based on like a Cuban-American family.
Oh, boy.
And the whole pachanga of all that. So what do you think of that type of because I know we have opinions about remakes and reboots, but
I don't hate reboots. I mean, for God's
I think most reboots are
they rebooted Full House.
They didn't reboot it. That was a sequel. That's different. That's essentially a sequel series.
It is, but it's a reboot.
Well, but I'm talking like a remake. You know how ultimate, like, there's always these umpteen, like, oh, this is the new version of.
I would like to think that if Andy Garcia is involved, it probably is production wise. It's probably good because Andy Garcia is a very selective actor. You know,
overall, yeah.
Overall, and he's a veteran. He's been around for a while, and
but I'm pro remakes that are adding a wrinkle. You know what I mean?
Like
they're not just remaking it and casting, Ryan Reynolds and another white person. Like they're like, okay, let's remake it, but now let's show this different culture. This,
Oh no, yeah, absolutely. No, I love it. I love it. Do we know more about the cast?
Not yet, but you know who I immediately thought would be perfect for the bride?
Who?
This week's guest.
You know what's funny? Actually, you know what's funny? Before you said that, I was thinking, did you do this as like purposely transition into like Anna?
I did, in a way. I did. I was like, damn, how do I get from racist cops to Andy Garcia to this week's guest?
She would be
fantastic.
She would be great. Do you know, if it's going to be like the same plot line?
I mean, the thing is, Father of the Bride is really a very loose plot line. I mean, that's a remake from
actually, I was going to say
Tracy and Elizabeth Taylor.
Right, the Father of the Bride that I know is a remake from.
Right, the Steve Martin version is a remake of Spencer Tracy. So this is the
third version of it.
Right, but it's the first one that's not about white people.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I mean, it's a very loose story. It's literally just like the daughter's getting married and all the craziness of planning the wedding. I mean, that's the story.
Hope, because you know how we talk about this, we always talked about it in 152 episodes, how Hollywood always gets it wrong.
God bless them, they try, but
most of the time gets it wrong.
Yeah.
I just hope that they have
screenwriters
people there like Gloria
Estefans,
people like her, that are gonna bring authenticity,
right.
Or
at least raise a hand to say,
right,
no, that's not because how that is.
The first thing when you said that and we started talking about Father of the Bride is, if I was directing that movie or producing that movie and I was doing I'm assuming that if it's Andy Garcia, it's gonna be Cuban.
Yeah, I would assume.
You have to have a scene in the wedding where the viejas are fighting over the centerpiece.
Oh, for sure.
There has to be.
For sure.
Like, there has to be.
And I'm even thinking before that. I'm thinking like literally opening sequence where, you're seeing the house. One of the things you have to see is la foto de la quince de la niña.
Yes.
Like things like that. Is it going to be a huge impact on the movie?
Right.
No. But it brings authenticity.
Yeah, and the house cannot be a white picket,
colonial. No, it's not Connecticut.
Yes. No.
It's not Connecticut.
It has to...
Miami or LA. Pick one,
pero... reja, con mucha jareca adelante.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And un santo somewhere.
Yeah. Size can be debated, but yes.
Yeah. Even if it's small. Right?
That's what I'm saying. Size can be debated,
yeah. But yeah, like that's it. Immediately what I thought, I'm like, you have to have a scene of like a couple of ladies fighting over the centerpiece. I could just imagine like a scene like Mirta sitting down looking at the centerpiece. She goes, "Eso es mío." And then like cut away to another scene. And then you go back to Gladys sitting down en la misma mesa de Mirta. Eso es mío. And then, a third one, and like stuff like that. Because that's what makes it authentic.
Exactly.
Because, if you have, white person number 2 and white person number 3 thinking, brought in, we're going to be calling it La Fiesta and we're all going to be eating, burritos en La Caliente dancing La Bamba.
Ooh, get me some sangria, or a mojito.
Yeah, a mojito.
A mojito.
Let's have a mojito, yeah. Because I love this Spanish,
I love this salsa music.
Yes.
Yeah. Nay. No, but yeah. So as we said, the perfect person to play the bride would be this week's guest, Ana Villafañe.
Yeah.
So Ana Villafañe starred on Broadway as, our queen, Gloria Estefan. Mm-hmm. And she's currently on the final season of Younger, which premiered this week on I think April 15th. It premiered on Paramount Plus. And we had so much fun interviewing her.
It was good company and great food.
The interview is only like 30 minutes long, but I think we hung out with her for like 2 hours.
I think more. And we were at Finka, which you will hear in the interview. What a better place to have it than Finka. Between
Union Beer and Finka, can we combine them so we can have all our interviews at that hybrid?
I'm totally okay with it.
Okay, we'll see what we can do.
Yeah. So.
All right. Well, here's our interview with local girl done good, Ana Villafañe. All right, everybody. So as we said, we have today, quite honestly, one of our, we've talked a lot about our dream guests, our short list of guests, and we've been doing a pretty damn good job of it this year. Because right now, sitting across from us at Finka, Table and Tap, in the heart of Kendall.
Live from Finka. Well, pre-recorded, but live.
Yeah, we're doing it live. As we say it, it's live. With us is Ana Villafañe. Now, first of all, thank you so much for joining us, Ana. You guys know her from New Amsterdam. You know her from On Your Feet. You know her. There's so many things that... It's funny because I was looking at your IMDb, and I'm like...
wild. It's such a wild... It's the Wild West on there.
It's like, how many of these are true? Because I know sometimes people are like, I wasn't in that. They just put it there. But it's like, it's crazy how many things you've done, girl.
You know what's weird is I actually randomly stumbled upon my own IMDb the other day because my manager put it on my bio for my Instagram. And I clicked it almost by mistake, and it was like way too late for me to be creeping on myself on IMDb, but I was like, man, this is wild. And it's actually all true. It is all true. And I think about it because I think about my first job here, which shot in Key Biscayne, and I was a runway model in this Bollywood movie. And I'm like, wait, that seems like 75 lifetimes ago. And then add the pandemic, and it's like in dog years. So I feel like I'm 1,000 years old.
So wait, is that just like a rule of thumb that actors and performers don't IMDb themselves?
I'm sure some do. I think I don't have the stomach for it.
Because I think I would be constantly IMDbing myself.
I'd be correcting
a verb.
IMDbing, yes. Googling IMDbing.
So we always like to, when we bring guests on the podcast, usually they're already very established, and in your case, have a resume or an IMDb filled with things they've done. But take us back to the beginning. Growing up here in Miami, did you always know you wanted to act and perform? How did that develop?
So I knew I wanted to do it seriously pretty much in around 4th grade, which I know sounds hilarious. It's like, wow, you knew that you wanted to do it seriously when you were 9. But actually, the truthful answer is yes. I started singing when I was 7. I would do a sleepaway camp at 80 Barnes Park.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Ooh, the rare Hispanic kid that was allowed to do a sleepaway camp.
I know. I consider myself a very lucky child. And there I was in the middle of Bird Road and 67th Avenue, sleeping in these log cabins. And I did a talent show. I sang Lucky by Britney Spears. And obviously, iconic. And it just kind of spiraled. So from singing, then what do you do with a kid who can sing? And so my parents put me in theater. I started doing theater camps. We didn't have a lot of money to be in the really fancy theater camps, out of state or anything like that. But I did. Heidi and Joe Melchiona's dance center had a musical theater camp.
Remember them.
Yeah, that was a whole thing.
Heidi
and Joe.
Heidi and Joe Melchiona's. Yeah, this is throwback. If you know, you know. So I started doing those little camps, and then in 4th grade, my parents have a friend named Pancho Padura who now teaches drama at Belen. But at the time, he was working as a regional, as a theater actor regionally here, and he was doing a production of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat in 2000 at Actors Playhouse, and they were looking for kids who could sing, and I could belt my face off from a very young age. So my parents didn't know what to do with that. My parents are not in the industry by any means or any stretch of the imagination. And I was just this really active, scrappy kid who really needed a place to put all that energy. And so they let me audition, and I got my first job by mistake like that. It was our after school activity. It
was fun.
It was fun. I was a part-time student going sometimes to 4th grade and sometimes to work. And then after school, I would go to the theater. My grandfather would drive me, and I was doing this show. And I remember my dad would go pick me up from the theater, and he would sneak into the house to watch the end of the show. So he became obsessed with Andrew Lloyd Webber, this guy from El Salvador who has this obsession with Andrew Lloyd Webber now in musical theater. And it just something clicked, being on stage with these professional actors in my khakis and my teal little T-shirt, and I was like, oh shit, you can be a different person while you sing. That sounds fun. And that felt just the most delicious escape, and it was so like place and
So you were like
doing
you were
gigs.
a child actor.
Yeah, I mean,
mean-
ish, like in Miami. Like my parents, it's interesting because back then I would have, oh my God, like I wanted so badly to be a real child actor. Like I wanted to like go do Hollywood auditions and stuff,
Right.
and I felt this hunger. And I remember having a lot of resentment for my parents, being like, oh, like they want me to be this like normal cookie cutter kid down here, like, and then little did I know that it was kind of preparing me for this real world that I stepped into, and
was a good
now
base.
I'm grateful. Believe it or not, I actually got signed off of doing a musical at Lourdes in the cafetorium, which, in case you're unaware, that means a cafeteria with a stage, which is where we did mass and where we did our musicals.
What
I just
musical was
learned
it?
something new. I'm sorry.
You never heard of Cafetorium?
my
Elementary,
elementary school
yeah.
had a cafetorium and had a stage.
There you go.
I didn't realize it was a hybrid of both worlds.
Oh, yes. Oh, it
Yeah.
sure is.
I just thought it was like wow. Wow. You know, you
what?
learn
You're
something
welcome.
every day.
That is the
You're
learn
welcome.
portion of the episode.
vocab word.
Today's
SAT
word
vocab.
is
Wow.
cafetorium.
Yes.
Wow.
I know. And it's crazy. I mean, like, I remember, so in high school, I was like, again, very, very active in terms of just my imagination because I wanted to be anywhere else, to be honest.
Yeah.
I would write shows and cast my friends and myself as the leads and put them on, and the school would invite Epiphany to go watch it. So like I would like I wrote like a Christmas show that was based on the game Candyland called Christmas in Candyland. I wrote a Grinch story.
I did
wrote,
not know
like,
she was a
all these
playwright
different-
too.
Wow.
Well, I've always had a little bit of that. Like I've always been just creative in general, you know. So it definitely was born, you know, at a good old Our Lady of Lourdes in South Miami.
So what would you say? Because, you know, again, so many people, when they see somebody who's already established and, you know, has done so many things, they always say, well, what led them there? Because there's so many people who try and maybe don't
Yeah.
get as far as you have. What was like your big break where you feel, okay, this
Weren't you
led
listening?
me,
Christmas in Candyland.
this led me to these other great things, or to the next level, as they say.
You know, I know that this is going to sound very like hippy dippy and whatever, but I genuinely, I can remember my freshman year in high school when I started prioritizing a career that I didn't even have at the time, but I was already making choices for this, you know, hypothetical career. And so I kind of dove in head first, regardless of the fact that I didn't want to be at that school. I wanted to go to New World because I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be taken seriously, but my parents were like, "Tú vas a ser rara. If you go to, if you go to one of these art schools, you're gonna come out super weird, and you're gonna, I don't know." Like they had all these preconceived notions, and they were scared, which is fair. It's a completely different world to what they are used to. So I just made it work. I was like, all right, I can't be in art school. I'm going to turn this into an art school. So I, just dove into all of it. And I was, doing the Thespian Honor Society. I was the president of my choir, even though I hate choirs. I've hated choirs since I was in second grade. But I felt that the only way I could do it at all and survive was to thrive in it. So I, instead of like kicking and screaming and just becoming a recluse or like kind of staying on my own, I tried to thrive in the environment and try to make it more what I wanted to see it be. And I'm proud of that. Like now, like looking back, it's kind of fun.
Hey, that's no small feat for a teenager to pull that together. Like that takes dedication and like focus. I mean,
well, and that's what so that's my only answer to the question, I think, is when it shifted into, okay, what am I going to do about it? Like stop crying about the position you're in, the place you're in. Like, this is not New York, this is not LA, you're not a child star, get over it. Like, make yourself useful and create what you're yearning for, I guess. So I think that when I quit the cheerleading team and decided to focus on singing, I think that's like that was the moment where I started taking myself seriously, if that makes sense, which then I think led to all of the other things, because when I got signed, which was my senior year in high school, it almost made sense. Like the director came to me and told me that this guy had seen me in the show and wanted me to go audition for this Lifetime movie. And I remember going to Kinko's with my dad. He took a picture of me in our backyard with like a disposable camera, and we went to Kinko's and we printed it out 8x10. And I had like braces still, and like we literally went to Lincoln Road to Universal Casting, and we did this audition, and that was it. From there, I was flown to LA to see if I would get signed, and then I got signed immediately. I was wearing a dress from Forever 21 that I was so proud of, and then I moved. It was crazy, but it also wasn't that crazy. I like to quote Alex Dinelaris, who wrote On Your Feet and who, you know, casual Academy Award winner. He always says surprising inevitability.
Right.
Like, it was surprising, but it was also weirdly, by that point, inevitable. Like, Eileen will tell you, Eileen, of course, who owns Finka, where we're sitting right now, but, like, she was one of my best friends from a very young age, and I was always that weirdo. Like, oh, like, everyone's going to a party? Cool, I'm going to rehearsal.
You always took it very seriously. This wasn't like, because I feel a lot of times in show business, especially, a lot of people may get into it for the wrong reasons, for the vanity, the popularity. Totally. This is what you had to do.
You know, the irony of that is it never made me more popular. It's like, I don't know if you guys you wear glasses. So when you don't have I don't know if you can see from far or from close. I cannot see from far away. But in my life, I've always had vision more for far away than for what's in front of me, where when I was in high school, I was already thinking about this interview. I was already thinking about 10 years from now. I was envisioning things and trying to lay a foundation for a life that I wanted to build that would take me out of the reality. Not because there's anything wrong with Miami or with the school or with my friends or with anything. It's just I didn't feel like it fit.
That's very deep for a teenager to feel.
As I take a sip of my Wu-Tan Flan cocktail.
That thing is so good. Like, no joke, guys. When you come to Finka, have the Wu-Tan Flan cocktail. It's
honestly
really freaking
I always
good.
tell people it's protein. There's like an egg in it.
Yeah, it's like healthy.
It's basically an omelet.
It's omelet and an egg white omelet at that.
Exactly.
So, fast forward a couple years, you know, we mentioned On Your Feet, you mentioned, you know, Gloria. So that's actually the first time we saw you.
Yeah.
Was on stage, on Broadway, in the role of Gloria. Literally, we went to go see you while you were still in previews.
So wild. Oh my God.
It was, and I've told the story before, but I will tell it again because I like telling my stories. We like telling things ad nauseum. It was actually, I was living up in New York at the time. He had come to help me move back down.
Oh, okay.
And literally, my last night in New York, we went to go see On Your Feet.
Oh my God.
And there was just something about watching you and the story of Miami people, played by people from, well, I mean, you and Andrea are from Miami, but Josh is from Orlando.
Like, yeah. So it's very homegrown.
It's very homegrown, and the references or whatever. And it was just, I have to tell you, not because you're sitting in front of us, it was probably the best way to end my time in New York that I could have asked for. And so, you know, I said this to Andrea, and I'll say this to you, thank you for that, because it just put the button so perfectly on it.
We felt very proud because, you know, people that are Cuban American and we're from Miami, like when we were watching that show in New York, we were like, okay, we see it differently than everybody else.
Totally.
Because this is, yes, it's Gloria Estefan's story, you know, portrayed by you, but this is our story as a community. So talk to us a little bit about that, because that's just like, my gosh, you played like our god, you know, like the Cuban
queen.
fairy
The queen,
godmother.
the actual queen, honestly. Well, first of all, thank you, because like there's nothing more, I don't even know what the word would be. There's nothing more delicious to hear than that it means the same to you than it means to us, because I will say that as 305 the musical, it is like very much at that sensation of pride on stage as well, which is what made it so fun to share and what made it so fun to embody, and also I think what gave us the batteries and the fuel and the ammunition to keep going for so long up there. But, you know, it's exactly what you say about, sure, you can take it personal, but it's also what she represents is so much bigger than myself, than any city, than any even culture, because sure, there's the dimension of the Cuban American, there's the dimension of the Miami kid, there's the dimension of any Latin American person, there's the dimension of any immigrant person, there's the dimension of any person who's ever struggled and had to hang on to their authenticity in the face of such extreme adversity. There's just the inner struggle of knowing who you are enough to say, this is who I am and I'm proud of it. I mean, it's still life-changing to this day, you know?
Full disclosure, when I'm not a big musical person, a big party person, but when I saw that, I felt not only did I feel proud, but I felt like very empowered.
Ah.
That like, you know, this is such a like powerful story that is our story as well. You know, we all have a story, and it was one of those things that it's like I went home and told everybody about it. I'm like, okay, because at that time it was in New York.
Yeah,
we
of course.
didn't know, obviously, us, the audience, we didn't know if it was going to ever come down
Tour,
here or
of
whatever.
course.
And I remember telling my parents, like, oh my gosh, like, we have to go to New York to see this, you know, because it's, like, incredible. I'm curious, you know, in terms of, like, the whole audition process, you know, how was that, and specifically in your case, being Cuban-American from Miami,
right.
Obviously you are very familiar with Gloria.
I knew of her as a fan, and I knew of her as a Cuban-American girl growing up in her city, right? So I knew the magnitude from that perspective. And then when I got the job, or well, first when I auditioned, so they sent me the audition packet. I remember it was a Friday when I found out that I was going to New York and that I was flying on the Sunday to audition Monday. And this was my first Broadway audition ever. Fast forward to getting this first Broadway audition, and I never would have imagined it to be playing Gloria. So they send me the sides, and they send me the music packet. And I was like, I feel insulted that you even sent me the lyrics to these songs. I've known them since they're required reading. Like, this is not, like, how dare you? Yeah. Honestly, I've never seen sheet music for this, but I've known it since before I could speak. So that was good because I didn't have to sit there at a piano. Like, I have a degree in music, so like I didn't have to sit there at a piano plunking out the notes and to get the melodies perfect because I've known them my whole life.
It's like, hello.
I know.
Like,
I was like,
"Aye,
how dare you? Honestly, like, and so so that happened, and then the sides was interesting because it gave me a lot of insight to things I didn't know about her and things that I had to then discover about her, and specifically about her relationship with her mother. But then in terms of performing the songs, when I first walked into the audition on that Monday, which was September 29th of 2014, I asked Jerry Mitchell upon meeting him, they're like, oh, the typical audition moment that they're like, do you have any questions before we begin? And I was like, yes. I don't know how the show is going to be structured, but of these 5 songs you've given me, are there any that are in concert, and are there any that are used like as a theatrical device that I need to act?
Good question.
Thanks. Well, because it would make such a huge difference, right? And so what I did for that was I studied those songs. I studied the videos of her performing, but I researched it to that degree because I figured I've never done a concert, let alone of Gloria Estefan music. So I wanted to have it be really authentic to those performances. Cut to yourself a little bit drunk at a wedding dancing to like Rhythm Is Gonna Get You. That's what I did. And then it wasn't until the callback, which was the next day, which was September 30th, at which Gloria and Emilio were actually there. And I was...
No pressure.
Yeah, exactly. I was absolutely beside myself. By that point, for the last 24 hours, when they told me I was going to have the callback for them, is when I really dove into... I would write out phonetically how she phrases the songs. And I also wrote down certain moves from those concerts for rhythm and for Get On Your Feet.
Do you remember any examples about the phrasing, like the phonetic?
Yes. So anything for you is how I would say those words. But she says anything for you.
She does, yeah.
But she sings a lot more wide. She sings a lot more. She doesn't open her mouth as much as I would. And she does have a bit of a Miami accent, and she sings a lot in the consonants. So it was definitely a challenge to unlearn certain things that I had learned in music school and to relearn in her way. And then she flew, once I booked the job and started, she flew her coach from Australia, and I worked with him. Yeah. So it was like a whole thing.
Dang, girl. Like,
yeah.
I mean, eso fue like tremendo paquete. Like,
no. The transformation was ping, pang, boom.
No, pero bueno, I think that the wig helped. Was it a wig?
That thing. Of course it was a wig.
I don't
It
know.
was like 6 wigs. Throughout the entire show, I had like 6 wigs. They were each like 1,000 pounds. So it was very interesting. I know a lot about this woman.
But
like a creepy amount
it's so cool you're
of
saying
information.
that because often as, an audience, we don't see it from that perspective.
Totally.
Because I've always, independently of what we're talking about her, I've always been a fan of hers. Like, do you remember when we were in high school, I threw a viewing party for the Evolution tour?
No! yes, the Evolution tour.
That it was here in Miami.
Of
and
course.
it was on HBO. Like, it was a big deal.
Oh, my God.
To the street party for the Gloria
We went
album.
to the street party when the Gloria album came out in '98.
Oh, my
She had like a big
God.
street party in South Beach.
I mean,
But,
that sounds amazing.
But we've never
My life is
studied
that
her.
street party.
we've never like studied what you're
Right.
saying, like how she says things and her mannerisms.
Well, and that's the thing. I knew that people know her too well, and she has international fan base that they know every meticulous detail. And I couldn't do this halfway. So for me personally, sure, there was like all the excitement and like the beauty and like the fulfillment of almost honoring my ancestors and like validating like the trip from Cuba here that made it so, and from El Salvador, because my dad's from El Salvador, my mom is from Cuba, so I had kind of the objectivity from my Salvadoran side, but I also had the Cuban blood running in my veins, and I was raised in Miami, so you can't undo that.
Right.
And I had this massive responsibility to do it well. Because there were going to be people checking, and there were going to be people watching the show and saying, "Oh, that's cute," but it's just like an Elvis impersonation in Vegas.
I think that also speaks to you as an actor and a
Thank
performer,
you.
because of all that you just said, it could have gone the other way. You could have been
Totally.
like, I know Gloria Estefan. I grew up on Gloria Estefan.
Right.
I got this. Like, I'm gonna go in here, and sing, anything for you.
You know what's wild? I have never, even as I sit here today, I have never felt like I got this. About On Your Feet. I think the taking myself out of it was the only way to do it. And so I'll never be able to really grasp that I did it. It's almost like, when I first heard about it, I told my former team at the time, I was like, I don't know why, I just feel like I need to go in for this. And they're like, but you're not a Broadway girl. You're not trained for musical theater. You're
this
not
is your
like...
first Broadway audition
Yes.
type situation, right?
And they're like, that's not how it works. Like, Broadway people are groomed for Broadway, and there's a hierarchy, and you make your way up, and you don't have that. And I was like, yeah, but you're not understanding. There's something drawing me to this that is above and beyond training and above and beyond all this stuff. Just give me the chance, because I feel like I can do some service to this. Ended up being like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Little did I know what I was getting myself into. But cut to, I'm living in New York and my face is all over, and I was so overwhelmed. But it was, I wouldn't trade it for the world. There are some choices that I would make differently, but it has nothing to do with the show. It was more about, it's almost like my life was not ready, and then that show happened, and then it was like, oh, you
That's
better
a lot
get
of
ready.
pressure.
Yeah, exactly.
You, to your point, you had never done Broadway. It's not like you went from the chorus
Right.
to
right.
the supporting, and then whatever. It was like, boom, out the gate, you shot out of a cannon.
Right.
Oh, by the way, you're the lead. You're going to be the opener of the Macy's parade. You're
Yeah.
going to...
Now that you said Latin woman, obviously something that we still hear about and there's a struggle with is representation.
Yes.
Especially proper representation
Yep.
of the Latin community, because for so long it was just represented incorrectly with like a broad stroke.
Yep.
Well, what is your take on that? Do you think it's getting better? Do you think there's still a lot of work to be done? What is your take on where we are right now and where we're going?
So listen, even from 2008 to now, which is when I moved to LA and when I really started in the professional landscape, it has gotten better. I will tell you that. However, I don't think we can get lazy just because it's gotten a little bit better. I think, thankfully, there are now a lot more people in positions of power that reflect the world. I cannot wrap my head around why diversity is used as this word, this like ethereal word, almost like a Band-Aid to quiet us, when really it should be called an accurate depiction of the world because diversity is normal. And so by constantly calling it diversity, we are still othering ourselves and still allowing ourselves to be othered. I am not a diversity hire, and our shows are not diverse shows. It's a show, and it's a great show, and it's a great narrative. So I have been very picky, especially after having a role like Gloria, because I cannot move backwards. I cannot do something and paint by numbers just so that they can check the boxes on some studio or network and say, okay, we did our homework on diversity today. No, being Latin is not my story. I don't go to Starbucks and order un cafecito. I go to Starbucks and I order in English. Don't constantly write me to be this hybrid just to
check a box.
Yeah, to check a box and to also satiate what you think your one-dimensional view of my experience is. So if you are going to write a show for Latinx artists, for example, and you are not of Latinx descent, obviously you've done your research, obviously you're doing your best, right? But I'm going to need you to know that I have actually more experience than you, and if I say this doesn't feel right, it's in my body, it's in my mouth. So you need to believe us. And you need to hear us. And so that's what's beautiful about working with great Latin writers and creators and just people who are more open-minded to our experiences, because we can't continue to say yes just so that we get a seat at the table, because we have been building our own table. And that's what I love about growing up in Miami and being a Miami kid, is that, like, I don't see myself as other, because here we do run things. We are the people washing the dishes. We are the people owning the restaurant. We are the person ordering. We are the person at home. We are we're everyone. Yeah. So I didn't grow up feeling like I needed to be treated any different way. Also, for us, speaking Spanish is not a negative. So when I moved to LA, I didn't understand. My best friend is Mexican and she doesn't speak Spanish, and I was like, why? And she said very plainly, she was like, well, my family didn't want me to have that issue. Like, my family wanted us to really assimilate. And it's interesting because here people hang on to where they're from with a very different sense of
it's like a badge of honor.
Yeah, it's a very different thing. It's a very different sense of pride. There are places you can't order a sandwich in Miami without speaking at least a little bit of Spanish. Yeah. And it's not a bad
literally
thing.
I think people in Miami, and we've talked about this before in the podcast, go against assimilating.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. And I think that, there's good and bad in everything. It's not a judgment on anyone. It's just my personal face and body and voice. I would like to use it in very particular ways. And especially after playing this strong, educated, empowered woman on Broadway, I can't really go backwards then, unless it's like really important to the story. But don't do it to check a box. I can tell when I read a script and the Latin flavor, quote unquote, is just there to be a little exotic or to give it a little bit of spice.
The token
Do not
Latin
tell me
character.
that. Yes, I'm like, please don't use those words with me, because to me it's not spice. To me, it's my father got here when he was 16. So have a little bit of, tact and just compassion, and have a little bit more of a sense of humanity, to that it wasn't spicy for him to not speak English when he got here. It wasn't spicy for him to not be able to get a job in Atlanta, which is why we moved down to Miami when I was 5 years old. Like, it's not fun and exciting just so that you can get a little taste of what we're like behind closed doors. No. If the character is educated and speaks English and is in, I don't know, Iowa, I'm not going to speak Spanish just gratuitously so that you can feel like I'm a little bit more ethnic. And if the character is a Spanish speaker, then I will happily speak Spanish because I'm fluent. I will never forget that either. In my press, in press opportunities, when I'm doing interviews, whether it's on camera or podcast or whatever it may be, like, people sometimes get very surprised and taken aback, and they're like, wow, you have really good Spanish. I'm like, what did you expect? I'm so
like,
confused.
why wouldn't I?
Yeah. I'm allowed to have both.
So I'm assuming that was probably the case with the character on New Amsterdam.
Right.
She was Latina, but not capital L Latina.
Yes. And that's the beauty of, I loved that, because when I first got that breakdown, I remember I was actually in New York Stage and Film. I was developing like Water for Chocolate for the stage, which is happening for Broadway. Very exciting. And I'm playing Tita. And I was on my lunch break for the musical when we did the screen test. And I remember thinking about that. I was like, man, this is awesome. They've written this character named Valentina Castro. They don't talk about her ethnicity at all. She just is.
Right.
And that's the thing about it. She's this smart, kind of low-key bitch who is the new oncologist.
The internet would say it's not that low-key. I've read some fans' takes on your character, bro. Oh, yeah.
But it was so fun to play a hated character.
So, I mean, I know right now pandemic is crazy and all that, but you the one thing we've taken away from this conversation is that I think that if we look up, go-getter in the dictionary, it's like your picture's right there.
Thank you.
So, I mean, is there anything else that's happening right now that, you can talk about? Because I know there's those things you can, you
or
can't.
maybe announce.
Yes. Well, there are two things that I cannot talk about, but I was actually very, very lucky during the pandemic to be working. So from October of 2020 to January of 2021, I was shooting the final season of Younger.
I'm a little jealous. That's a hell of a lot of talent in one series.
I mean, listen, I worship at the altar of Sutton Foster, obviously.
Duh.
Obviously, as a good musical theater girl.
Tony performance, anything goes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, can you even?
Yeah.
Like, it's Bible.
Except.
When the first day that I worked with Hillary, I was like, I'm sorry, I just have to tell you, this is what dreams are made of? Okay, thank you. Like, I just had to get it out. And she started laughing. I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, you are an icon. And she's like, no, oh my God, everybody says that. So she's like super humble and normal and cool, which was nice to find out too, because like you meet these people and you're like, man, I hope you're not like just the worst.
Yeah.
I hope this doesn't like forever taint the vision in my mind
someone
of
who's
Lizzie
been
McGuire.
doing it for so long. She could be jaded. She
exactly,
could be,
exactly. And you hear all those horror stories and stuff, and I have a lot of empathy for like child actors in general, but she was just great on set, great to work with. She's also a mom, so she takes zero bullshit, which I loved.
You're talking about Hillary.
Huh? Yeah, Hillary. And
I'm a fan.
Yeah, she's amazing. And we were shooting, you know, during this pandemic and everybody figuring things out. So we're getting tested every 3 days, and there's all the precautions on set. So it's different. It's very different being on set nowadays. But I only say all of that because, like, you know, I was not on Broadway at the time when the Broadway shutdown happened, and so like a lot of my friends have been out of work, and it's been really, really difficult to see that industry like off. It's like actually really heartbreaking.
It hurts.
Yeah, it hurts a lot. And so and I can't even imagine I would have been in a complete downward spiral, even more than normal human downward spiral, had the show been going on, because it's like getting a piece of yourself ripped away from your body.
Yeah.
But you know, I was very, very grateful to join Younger for their final season, which is wild. So season 7, and to be honestly playing opposite Nico, I could not ask for more. Like, it was like, okay, there's a pandemic, but I get to make out with Nico for like a couple weeks.
Things balance out.
Yeah. You know, life has a way.
And at least if you would have caught it, you know it was from Nico. Like,
right.
You
I'm
can,
like, there are worse ways to catch it.
Exactly.
Right.
Oh. We just got the official. You're getting another cocktail.
Getting another cocktail, of course. But Ana, honestly, like, I mean, we've talked, I think, for like an hour.
Oh my God, really?
Like, as usual, we've said this all the time. We're like, we always want to have like 20-minute interviews. That never
totally.
happens.
It never happens.
And we could talk to you for like,
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, we could talk to you for like
absolutely.
6 more hours. But like, honestly, at this point, I know we're all kind of hungry too. Because we're at Finka and everything is delicious.
And we're sitting right next to the kitchen, so like I wish I could infuse your ears right now as the listeners with like the smells from the kitchen, right?
Smello audio?
Yes.
I don't know how that would work.
Exactly.
But you're one of those people that like you make us proud, you know.
Oh,
Yes,
thank
Not
you.
only because you know you're Cuban and you're Latin, but you're from Miami. You know,
Thank you.
we're all like a part of you in the sense that
for sure. It's a team win. It's a team win.
Yes,
That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, it's like that's
Thank you. That
that's
means a
one of
lot.
us out there,
Yeah.
and you know, not only have you been so successful, but you know, there's something to be said about like class and integrity, and you know, you're still like really young, and you've been able to maintain to that.
Thank
and
you.
and that's very important. So
Well, that means the world
thank
to
you.
me. Thank you.
Thank you. Like, we're saying thank you, and nos quedamos corto.
I know. Look, we just need like these new cocktails. I'm so excited to sit here and talk more off air.
And we're back. Okay, I know we say this all the time.
But
She was one of my favorites.
I know, it was so much fun. Like, I honestly cannot wait for COVID to be over so we can, you know, the way we went out west, we can go up north and, you know, hang out with her in New York. And
She was. It's funny because, you know, we met her that evening.
Yeah, for the first time.
And within 5 minutes, it's like, oh, I've known you forever.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You're one of my BFFs. Like,
Yeah.
hello, we're having drinks and good food at Finka with our friend Ana. Like,
yeah, like, duh, what else are we doing on a Monday night?
Like, whatever, you know, what are you doing today? She was great. She was great. And, you know, as we said during the interview, she is such an embodiment of like that Miami hustle, you know. Her story is very similar to everybody's story. You know, she's Cuban, you know, from a family event, you know, at one point of immigrants, and you know, she had a dream and she worked hard and she went for it. And I mean, and her dream, it was performing acting.
Right.
That's
the odds are kind of against you. I mean,
the odds are against you. The odds are against you. That's one of those things that, a lot of people are going to be naysayers, even if your family's supportive,
it's not easy.
And she did it. And it's just to I think for me, and I speak on behalf of both of us, to us, it was a bit of a full circle moment that we had said here before when we talked about Get On Your Feet, that how we saw it when it was still in previews.
Yeah. The last thing right before I came back from New
York, which that was very meaningful. And then, we interviewed her. So
we came up with the idea for the podcast on the car ride down.
Yes.
So it really is full circle.
Yes. So it was great. We love her. She's amazing.
Yes.
And we wish her nothing but just success.
Yes.
Continued success.
Continued success. And we're going to put it out into the universe that she's the bride and father of the bride.
Yes. Let's put it out into the universe.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. She's Andy Garcia's daughter.
I mean, why not?
Why
Who
not?
better?
Exactly.
Who better?
Exactly. So,
well, it is, it's time for the last sodas.
So I want to go first.
Do it.
So I think I may have given him a last soda, but the thing is that this is episode 152. We've given a lot of sodas. I gotta keep like a tangible list of sodas. I am giving my soda to LeVar Burton. But there is a reason why I'm giving him a soda.
Is this because of the article that I sent you the other day?
Nobody can host Jeopardy other than LeVar Burton.
Yeah.
LeVar Burton has to be...
It makes sense.
So
it makes all sense in the world.
So to our listeners who are like, LeVar Burton, I know that name. Okay. But who's LeVar Burton? Okay. I have always... I want to say that I've said this for a year. Not that he's going to host Jeopardy, but it's something that you and I have mentioned.
Yep. I think we mentioned it here.
And I have talked about it at length with people. LeVar Burton, a lot of people... I don't want to say that he's not a household name. A lot of people don't...
He's a household name without knowing he's a household name.
Right. A lot of people don't know who he is, but they know who he is.
Right.
LeVar Burton has starred in 3 of the most iconic and important moments in pop culture history of all time, right?
Yep.
He was Kunta Kinte in Roots.
The original Roots.
Which is one of the most iconic and landmark moments in
TV.
American television history.
Absolutely.
Then he was...
Geordie LaForge on Star Trek The Next Generation.
In Star Trek. He's a Trekkie.
And it was The Next Generation, which was the first new Star Trek after the original.
Right.
So that's a big deal.
So, he in the science fiction world, he's
a god.
like, he's up there.
Yeah, he's
right?
iconic. Yeah.
Another iconic role.
Yeah.
And then he hosted Reading Rainbow
Hello.
for what it feels like 50 years, right?
Yeah.
Inspiring generations and generations and millions of children to read. So you want to talk about accomplished? It's like...
That's a pedigree, my friend.
Those are, and again, I feel that he's one of these people that like we know who he is because that's the type of stuff that we would know.
Yeah.
But I think that if you stop a random person in the street, they know the guy from Reading Rainbow.
They know Geordie. They've
heard of Roots.
Right.
They probably,
if you ask who's LeVar Burton, they're gonna be like,
who?
Wait, who is that? I know that person. I know that person.
Right. So I think that he deserves he should be an EGOT as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
Just give him the damn EGOT.
Just do it.
Give him all the awards, right?
Line it up.
But when I saw the whole Jeopardy thing, it's like now I cannot think of anybody.
Okay, there's nobody
but
better.
LeVar Burton.
There's nobody better.
Jeopardy. Because we talked about it in the show.
Yes, we did.
The host of Jeopardy, whoever they pick, is a tricky host. It's tricky.
Yeah. It can't necessarily just be charm.
Yes.
You have to have a certain gravitas.
You have to back it up.
Yeah, a certain weight.
Right, because Alex Trebek started it, but Alex Trebek came across very intelligent, like the source of
like a professor.
Right. And LeVar Burton already has like the credentials.
Yeah,
like,
and he probably has doctorate degrees.
Some honor, yes.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure he has some doctorate.
And we just made him an EGOT. Like,
I know. What else do people want from life? God, he's been to space.
Yes.
What more do you want from the man?
And he helped millions and millions and millions of children read. I mean, they should give him a Nobel Peace Prize
for that.
A Nobel Prize in literature.
You know what? Throw that on the pile with the EGOT.
Yes.
What else you got?
Yeah. So that is why he should host Jeopardy.
I agree.
So my soda, my whole entire 12-pack of soda goes to LeVar Burton.
I feel like it's a case what you're
Yes.
giving him for sure,
Yes.
like from some warehouse store.
Yes. LeVar Burton deserves every accolade there is.
And he's earned it. Love it. I love it. So my last soda is actually
I was so excited about my last soda.
I could tell. Oh my god, you're like transformed. I love it. And it's like I think like your hair even, the gray even went away. You got so excited. It just, regenerated. So my last soda is actually it's actually a little closer to home. It is for a project that is currently on Kickstarter, and I believe that as of the day this premieres, so this episode premieres on April 16th, I think it only has like maybe 5 or 6 days left of a Kickstarter campaign. And it is actually a graphic novel called The Dusk, D-U-S-K. And it is created by, and I'm scrolling up, it is created by Elizabeth Little,
And Alex Segura.
David Hahn, and our friend Alex Segura. We went to high school with Alex. He's been on the show.
We love Alex.
We love Alex. He's one of the, I think he's co-president at Archie Comics.
No big deal.
No big deal. But
And also has a series of books.
and has a series of
big
crime noir, and he's written.
You know what I always say about
He wrote a
Alex?
Star Wars book.
What I always say about Alex, I like to think that I was the one who started his literary career because I'm the one who made him editor-in-chief.
I think you are.
Yeah.
I'd like to think you are.
I'd like to think that I had something to do with that.
I mean, in your own small way, you
Yes.
did. But I actually I will say I backed it already. Obviously, in Kickstarter, when you donate, there's different levels, and you can get rewards and what have you. But it ties back to what we were saying earlier, where about representation, because I'm going to give you a little synopsis of the story. So, Blackstone public defender Jaime Nunez, former baseball hero, now a divorced dad to a precocious teen, is always trying to do his best, but the criminal justice system is not without limits. When Jaime comes into an unexpected fortune and some surprising superheroic tools, he discovers there might be another, more direct way to do some actual good in the world. So, it's a Latino lead in the comic book world. There's not that many of us. And yet it feels kind of like what Ana was saying in her interview, which is he is Hispanic, but it is not, he's the dusk. He's not, el atardecer, and so it's all about representation. And if you have a chance, if you can, jump on Kickstarter. I don't remember what that last date is. Oh, sorry. Yes. The last date to get it funded is April 22nd. And I think that they're at like 80% or 85% of the goal. So please, 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 if you have a couple bucks to spare, you know what? Take a look and help them make their dream come true.
Cool. See, from LeVar Burton to Kickstarters, we like to support everybody here.
We
on Better Let Me
do.
Tell
We
You.
are a very positive podcast.
Even though our first topic was a bit of a downer, but important to talk about.
It was a bit of a downer, but we hope that we eventually don't have to have those conversations.
Yeah. I mean, I always I know a lot of people listen to us to laugh and have a good time, which, we love.
Right.
But,
sometimes you just...
But sometimes you have to talk about things that are very difficult. It's life.
Yeah. And sometimes you go to trivia on Wednesday, April 21st at Beat Culture Brewery.
Exactly. So we hope everybody listened, laughed, and learned. And as always, grab your pastelito, your croqueta, and your cafecito.
Yep.
And thank you for joining us, everybody. That was episode 152. Have a great weekend, Pero Friday. Have a great time.
Cuídense, mi gente.
See you all next week. Bye.
Bye. Pero Let Me Tell You is co-hosted by Darian Borges and Ismaeliano, produced by Ismaeliano, and our theme, Pero Let Me Tell You Freestyle, is composed by Michael Angelo Lamleplex, the official gay guy. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes.